Yesterday I was watching a very interesting game that was played between the one and only international master Eric Rosen and Grandmaster Arkadij Naiditsch from the 2024 Fujairah Blitz Tournament. So this was round 2 of the tournament, and I was really impressed with how Eric Rosen remained calm to put up a good fight against a very talented grandmaster. Why am I doing this? Like, I don't really cover other people's games on my channel. One thing, I'm here to expose Grandmaster Arkadij's secrets. I want to show you guys how grandmasters play differently from the rest of us, how they attack and how they think during games. I noticed that the grandmaster only used 2 principles that I discussed in this video. In case you didn't watch that video, I suggest that you watch that. So first, write these points down. Number 1, we are going to see clearance sacrifices in this game. Number 2, we are going to see indirect attacks. Number 3, we are going to see discoveries. Number 4, we are going to see pins. Just 4 secrets that Grandmaster Arkadij used in this game. So Eric had white pieces, e4, then Grandmaster Arkadij responded with the Sicilian Defense. From this point, I knew Eric was going to play the closed Sicilian Defense. This is what he loves playing most of the times. Shout out to Eric, by the way. I'm a big fan. Knight c6 was played, then Eric immediately attacked that knight with bishop b5 with an intention of capturing that knight immediately, which happened in the game, by the way, after knight to f6. Now this is all theory and I don't want to bore you to death, guys. There's an interesting part that is coming, so stay tuned. Pawn to d3 was played by Eric, and then the common move here is pawn to e5, but the grandmaster played b6, and then Eric played pawn to f4, kind of the Grand Prix Attack. And now we are on move 6 where the mess started happening. Grandmaster Arkadij surprised Eric with the first clearance sacrifice, pawn to c4. Guys, this is one secret of strong players. Why sacrificing a pawn for free? For you to understand this principle very well, let me show you this idea of a clearance sacrifice in another opening. For example, we see this happening even in the Queen's Gambit. Why sacrificing this pawn if you can't take it immediately? The idea is that if white takes, you just paved way for your e-pawn to sit on e4. This is a very basic example of a clearance sacrifice. And this was the case in this position. When GM Arkadij played this clearance sacrifice, he wasn't thinking about how many pieces or how many pawns he was going to remain with. He was thinking about how many active pieces and open lines he was going to remain with. There's no immediate way to get back this pawn, by the way. But anyways, instead of taking, the move that I genuinely considered to play in this position was something like knight to f3, just leaving my center pawns intact. You know that I love center pawns. So if knight to f3, for example, and c takes d3 happened, I was just going to take back with my pawn, rebuilding my center. I'm just telling you what I was going to do. And this is what you do when you're not sure of a certain move or what black is up to. But however, Eric just took. And after queen takes, king takes, again the grandmaster played the second clearance sacrifice. The other secret about clearance sacrifices is just to mess up your opponent's pawns and then sooner or later find a way to get back that pawn. So you're just trying to mess up the pawn structure for the sake of the end game. That's all. Again, Stockfish didn't want Eric to take. The move here is just knight to f3 so that they can help you develop a minor piece that was doing nothing on its initial square. But what did we see in the game? Eric took, and there we see these doubled pawns. The grandmaster now created a new opportunity for knight g4, intending to go knight f2 check and win the rook, or just taking back the e5 pawn immediately. I was looking at knight h3, but after knight takes e5, I realized white will have to protect his c4 pawn and accept having a very bad pawn structure after bishop takes h3. So even my analysis during the game failed. Eric played a good move, king e2, though king e1 was best. And knight takes e5 is what we saw. So at the end of the day, we see white remaining with an isolated pawn which is discouraged in chess. b3 was played, a normal move. then bishop b4. So GM Arkadij develops a piece with an attack. Remember what strong players are good at. Bishop b2, then castle shot, putting the king to safety in order to bring these rooks into the game. Knight f3 was played, and then at this point I thought black was going to play rook e8 or bishop g4, but see what the GM did. He played knight g6, an indirect attack, which is the second secret, you guys, trying to bring the knight on f4 with check. If pawn to g3, that was going to create some weaknesses, just like I mentioned earlier, because f5 was coming anyways, and bishop g4 in the near future. So rook a d1 was played instead, and then instead of playing knight f4, black just played rook e8, again indirectly attacking the pawn on e4. Yes, the idea is to take the defender of the e4 pawn first. And so Eric reacted accordingly, and instead of taking, black played pawn to f5 immediately. Why? Because he realized that his dark squared bishop was an attacking piece. So you don't trade off your most active pieces with your opponent's less active pieces. So pawn to f5 was played, again kind of a clearance sacrifice, but this was a genuine attack, and instead of rook he1 according to what Stockfish wanted, Eric took. He was just taking things. I'm not saying if I was playing against GM Arkadij I would have done better. In fact, I would have lost either ways against GM Arkadij or Eric. That shows the respect I have for Eric, by the way. So Stockfish here loves rook he1, but e takes f5 was played. So by doing so, he helped black develop a piece that was doing nothing on its initial square, and this came with an attack on the c2 pawn. So Eric is now panicking. Knight d4 was played by Eric, because what else? The idea was to attack the bishop and at the same time defend the c2 pawn, but that gave time for black to go rook f8, kind of a skewer, hoping to move his bishop out with the discovery. This is what grandmasters do. So there we see our third point, a discovery attack. Knight takes was played, and then rook takes, then king e3, because what else? Going back was going to be checkmate after bishop c5. Again, there we see an indirect attack. What is this move? So black is just playing in a way of inviting weaknesses. So that's why a3 was played, attacking this bishop. This is kind of a candidate move. So what Eric is saying is, take my pawn with check, but I'll attack your rook with tempo somehow before capturing your bishop. So black played bishop e7, and then there we saw knight e4 by Eric. What else can he do? So again, if I was black, I would have taken on g2 with check immediately, but the grandmaster understood that this was already a dead piece. This is another difference between us and these guys. He played a strategic attacking move instead of taking right away. Rook h e8, kind of a skewer again, because once this bishop moves, or let's say here, Eric's knight is going to be pinned to the king. So that's why Eric moved from that possible discovery, and then instead of taking the g2 pawn, the grandmaster played another attacking move, rook f4, attacking the knight, and then rook de1 was played. By the way, see what Eric did here. Instead of just retreating his knight, he also played a strategic attacking move. How is this strategic? Let me show you. Just in case black played something like bishop c5, I'm just saying, or something like bishop d8, Eric wanted to play this little discovery attack and probably end up winning both the rook and the bishop. So this is how strong players play. They don't attack directly. They don't want to play what you are able to see easily. They want to attack strategically. And that's what Eric did there with rook de1. But here the grandmaster just took, what else? Then rook e2 by Eric, knight h4. Stockfish doesn't seem to like this move, but it's fine. Rook g1 was played, which costed Eric's game. The idea was that he just wanted to attack the g7 pawn and probably take on the next move, but this allowed black to immediately win the free rook after knight f3 check. And here it seemed like Eric was going to equalize after knight takes g1, but it's sad because if the king took, knight takes e2 check was going to come with a tempo, and it was here where Eric lost the game, technically speaking, after losing a free piece. The rest was just a matter of technique. So what am I saying? Clearance sacrifices, that's 1. Indirect attacks, that's 2. Discoveries, that's 3. And hints. Let me know if you guys learned 1 or 2 new things from this video. Again, much love to Eric. I wish him nothing but the best in this ongoing Blitz tournament which he is participating in. Thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time.